Halloween is really a special time, isn't it? Especially for me. You can see why if you know who I am. Look up a little. That's me, a jack-o'-lantern. At Halloween time every year, I sit up here and watch everybody go by. It's a nice and scary time, isn't it? All those wonderful costumes and masks and makeup. I think about how much fun Halloween is. I also worry a little bit about the things that can spoil the fun of Halloween. Those kinds of things scare me too, but in a different way.
Welcome to the Cinematic Void Podcast. Cinematic Void is a cult film series that hosts screenings in the Los Angeles area, as well as virtually. I'm your host, Jim Branscombe, and joining me as always is...
Hey, it's Nick Vance, Paranoid Futures, in all the places. You can find Cinematic Void on the World Wide Web at cinematicvoid.com, as well as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all major podcast platforms. If you want to support The Void, you can consider joining our Patreon. Not only do you get cool perks, but you make this podcast as well as the Cinemadness movie possible. Jim, we made it to the other side. We just finished Beyond Fest, and I know we'll be talking about that a bunch later, but I can't help but just mention it. Goddamn.
It's been a wild ride. As we're recording this, we actually had to push back our normal record date because the last day was on the Monday. This is a Wednesday as we're recording it. But yeah, it's like I didn't work in the theater and you didn't work in the theater, but goddamn it if we didn't work just as hard as we did when we were working at the theater for this.
I don't know. I maybe thought I was going to get a little easier of a ride not standing behind the counter this time around, and that's not the case. But, you know, we made it happen. We made it work. We're behind the scenes and we're killing it. But right before we did the Beyond Fest thing, like literally right before, we went to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun. We went in 2019. We had a blast, and like I figured, like, fuck it, let's go again. So you, myself, Eddie, who's the Void media man or social media marketing manager, and former employee of the Egyptian Theater, Cat, came out and did a bunch of the mazes. I think you and I drank around the park.
Had a couple drinks.
Yeah, I mix my drinks pretty badly. I know I had a fucking because we started at Moe's Tavern, the Simpsons themed one, and I think your biggest point was like, does every asshole that comes in here want to call the bartender Mo?
I mean, after a couple drinks, I went back in and called him Mo.
I mean, they kind of deserve it after a while. It's like, also the fact that like I went to go buy us another round, and it's like, well, you only get one drink per person. I'm like, come on, man, I'm not gonna be like two-fisted. I guess people do two-fisted.
Come on, bro, my kid's outside. He's thirsty.
Yeah, exactly. And then like Eddie had shown up, and Eddie's like, hey, how's it going? And it's like, cool, you're here, because then you can carry Nick's beer out. And I felt bad about doing that, but it's like,
thanks, Eddie.
Otherwise, like, I would have had to gone out, sent you back in to go pick up the fucking drink. Whatever.
Fucking disaster.
It's complicated, man. Don't make drinking complicated. But it's like, you know, we drank a Moe's. I think I had a Mai Tai by the tropical themed bar, whatever that thing was, kiosk near Jurassic World. Definitely had a frozen margarita where we ended up having our dinner, which is like, I give kudos to Universal. They actually had like Beyond Meat tacos and stuff like that. They actually decent vegan options there, which is nice. That frozen margarita fucking gave me brain freeze.
Right on.
Holy shit.
Mazes were cool.
Yeah, mazes is cool. We didn't do all of them because like it got too crowded, and it just got to the point it's like, yeah, I don't feel like waiting 100 minutes. Even though it probably wouldn't have been 100 minutes.
We did the fucking the Purge one at the very end that you like hop on the little fucking monorail, and then it's just like you hop on it and you go like a block, and then it just stops, and there's all this like Purge shit happening, and it's at this point it's fucking cold outside. I want to go home.
Yeah.
What is this shit? But I don't know. It was cool. It was fun.
I mean, I will say personally, the Terror Tram was my least favorite thing we did.
Yeah. But I feel like didn't that take us to like the Bates house and all that stuff?
It basically dumped us off. We had a bunch. I'm not a big fan of the Purge series. I've seen maybe the first one.
Yeah.
Not my bag. If you love it, cool.
I like the concept, but I like it in theory, but I don't like it. It's, you know, they're fine.
They're fine. And, you know, it's cool. We got our picture taken with Norman Bates. But, like, honestly, the amount of time it took us to get to the tram and then get dropped off the tram and then walk around and then get back on the tram to get dropped back off, I feel like we could have done 2 other mazes.
Could have rode the fucking Harry Potter ride again. That was probably my favorite.
Oh yeah, like not the roller coaster, which is like literally 30 seconds long.
Yeah.
But the half virtual roller coaster. I don't even know what it's called. Like I don't know.
She was pretty trippy. Like I was a little drunk, but like I couldn't really tell what I was seeing. You know what I mean? Like because of all the crazy virtual shit, and like I wasn't sure because you're kind of on a roller coaster, but like am I just in like this big fucking warehouse?
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. Pretty sick.
It's pretty sick. Like I think that was probably my favorite thing we rode or did there. Like, you know, maze wise, I'd say I like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre maze. Yeah. Although I think we got kind of off time a couple times, so we missed the scares, which I think is just what happens at these mazes. I know Halloween 4 when we went through. Halloween 4 was pretty cool, but that like
sick, yeah.
But watching the dude playing Donald Pleasance, like Dr. Loomis like reset, like walk backwards was like kind of took me out of it, man. Right. But I actually think my favorite maze was that Pandora's Box one, the one with all the day glow colors and shit like that, and like some weird combination of like misfit crimson ghosts like hanging out. And, like that one was really cool. The Bride of Frankenstein one was pretty cool, but I think we missed a bunch of scares. Yeah, and had some wailing guitar work from Slash, which is just like there's nothing against it, but it's just like okay, that's the thing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they like just decided like, you know what this needs? Fucking Slash. Fucking like just riffing. Playing a fucking solo as you're walking through. Oh, yeah. But, you know, it's fun. I think next year if we do that, I want to go to Knott's Scary Farms because I've never been to Knott's Berry Farms. And I've lived here we both lived here for a decade plus at this point. Just do something different.
Some decent, like, kind of mid-level roller coasters there. Some, like, wooden ones, stuff like that. I like it.
I saw someone walk through the mazes there, and even though they're not, like, franchises and that kind of stuff, they looked a lot better.
Right on. I didn't go on Halloween. I just went, like, normal last time and had some berries.
Had some berries? Had some of those Knott's berries? What is a fucking Knott's berry?
I know. Everything is just fucking purple there. You get some purple soda.
I don't know. I may go do that next year. Or if you're listening, you know, make your recommendations on what your favorite LA-based horror attractions are, because maybe we'll go do them. And speaking of which, I just want to mention that the last 2 podcasts that we've put out, the Salem, Massachusetts one, and the one we did with Kayla Janice, have been our 2 biggest episodes to date. Like, and if you're a new listener and you're still hanging out, thanks for joining. And, you know, if you've been listening, I hate doing this because I hate listening to other podcasts when people are like, yo, make sure you give us a 5-star, leave a review and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, man, of course I'll do that. But it's just like, you don't have to say it every episode. But now, we're going to be those assholes and say, hey, if you enjoy the podcast, give us a rating. And I'm not asking for 5-star. Give us an honest rating. Because it's like, is it a 5-star podcast? I don't really know. I'm happy with how it turns out. But like, it could be a 4 to you. Give it a 4. Don't give it a 5 because like, that's what people ask for. Give an honest rating.
Don't listen to him. Just give us the 5. It's no big deal.
Yeah, fine. Just give us the fucking 5. But anyway, it's just... the only reason I bring that up is because, like, the podcast has been growing over the last few years. And, like, you know, this was a thing that, like, I wasn't sure I even wanted to do for Cinematic Void. I think... Was it you that kind of said, like, I should do a podcast? I can't even remember how the podcast came about.
Who the fuck knows?
I know I avoided it because it's like... Why do a podcast? And then, you know, it's been gradually growing. And, like, honestly, these last 2 episodes kind of blew up. And it was just like, you know, that's what you hope for in a podcast. What you're doing is people listening. So, and also, like, the fact that we're both kind of a little off the beaten path of what we normally... Actually, the last 3 episodes we've done have been, like, not traditionally what we've done. The Back to the Theater episode, Salem episode, and the Kayla Janice one. And it's also funny because the Kayla Janice episode and most of the Salem episode we recorded like way back in like May, June, July kind of time.
I guess it's the universe saying, hey, you know that thing you usually do? Do something else.
Yeah, which is kind of leading us to what this episode is because it is a little different. So the episode, if you look at the titles and that kind of stuff, it's called A Halloween Party Marathon. Now, I know I've already been doing 31 Days of Voidoween online, which is like, you know, it's one of those lists where like you get a different theme each day, and I've been posting videos of my picks each day. But I thought it'd be fun to do something different as like something to do for Halloween night. But I didn't want to do just like a straight programming where I pick everything and like I want to make it this cohesive thing. Instead, Nick picked a theme for 5 different movies. And once he gave me the theme, I had to pick a movie based on that theme. And I'll be honest, there was a couple of them that were really challenging because I'm just looking at it's like, the fuck? What the fuck, man?
I mean, that's what I was going for, yeah, for sure.
And so this episode is going to be basically, we're going to talk about the theme Nick gave me. I'm going to talk about my pick. We're not going to go in depth on any of these movies, just more or less this is what my interpretation of the theme is. And then Nick's going to tell me if he likes the pick or not. And at the end of the day, you will have a 5-film marathon that you could potentially watch on Halloween. And if any of you do, let me know. Or if you just watch some of them. Or just, anyway, just give us feedback and tell us what you think about this. So I wouldn't mind doing more kind of episodes like this here and there. So it's an experiment. But before we hit the lab to do this experiment, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And then we'll be right back.
My Halloween pumpkin is finished. Now to light it. What candles have ruined my other creations?
Try the pumpkin light. It's around my neck, your mad doctorship.
The pumpkin light is perfect to light my Halloween pumpkin. I'll place it inside. You can make your Halloween pumpkin safe and scary with the pumpkin light. Oh!
Welcome back. This is movie number 1 for this Cinematic Void Halloween Party Marathon. Again, for whatever reason, if you forgot what the premise is, Nick picked a theme. I have to pick a movie based on that theme, and it's going to make up a movie marathon. So this is movie number 1 of this marathon. And Nick, why don't you tell us what the theme is?
So I went with a religious fable or tale.
Yeah, you did. So I actually changed my pick because I sent you my picks originally, and you're like, oh, cool, I want to see this movie. And I'm like, hold up, this is the one I'm going to change.
Typically, this is kind of how it always goes behind the scenes here. Jim gets me really excited with one film, and then just totally changes course.
Well, I had a reason why I did this, and I'll just explain as we're going, because I was thinking of, like, if it's going to be a marathon, I want to be more cohesive. Okay. And I wanted, like, you know, I think a marathon should be fun, and, like, I feel like the movie I picked is fun, but I feel like tonally it was kind of getting too far away from everything else that was coming with it. So the original pick I had was the Russian, like, kind of like artsy folk horror movie V, which is a phenomenal movie. I actually saw V for the first time, like, early 2000s at a Exhumed Film Show. I think it went with Bruce Holchek, who does Cinema Arcana. Oh, sorry, Holachek. I keep forgetting he fucking, like, upgraded his name. So, sorry, Bruce. I've known you for fucking 25 years. What do you expect? Anyway, Holachek and I went and saw this with Near Dark, and they actually played this first because it's like they wanted people to see this movie because they knew if they played it after Near Dark, people would bounce. And it's like, it's a really insane, weird, movie.
But this is not to be confused with the alien invasion thing from the 80s.
No, completely different thing. And not to be confused with V for Vendetta, the Alan Moore comic book, or that movie that I guess some people... I never saw the movie version. I don't know, whatever. We're getting off topic. So, was going to do V, changed my mind at the midnight hour, and I went with the 1988 movie directed by the great Ken Russell, The Lair of the White Worm. And
Ken Russell that did The Devils?
Correct. He did The Devils, which would have also made... Could have been a pick for this, but okay. I feel like it was also too far off of what everything... Again, I was looking for a marathon that all worked together, because I think you could go many different ways. You can do a marathon where everything's vastly different, but like as I was doing my picks, I kind of found out they were all kind of like laying together, and like V a lot, but I feel like this is going to set the tone for the evening. And for those of you who have not seen this movie, here's a little plot. Not going to do too in-depth, but when an archaeologist uncovers a strange skull in a foreign land, the residents of a nearby town begin to disappear, leading to further inexplicable occurrences. This is also based on a story by Bram Stoker. If that name sounds familiar, it's the guy who wrote Dracula. And why did I pick this movie? Basically, you get a snake worm cult thing going on. You also get an all-timer psychedelic video collage with the giant worm like wrapped around a crucified Jesus, all these like weird vampire snake people stuff. Like that sequence is just a fucking like LSD trip. Okay. Like it's a fucking mind melter. The movie is really funny. You get an early appearance by Hugh Grant in his career. You know, it's like funny, blasphemous. It's all kinds of stuff. I think Vestron put it out on their Vestron line, which is Lionsgate. It's a really cool disc, definitely worth picking up. And that is my pick for a religious fable tale.
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick.
Cool. I'll have to eat some mushrooms and check out that the psychedelic collage. And
I think, if you don't have it, I think it's probably on YouTube, at least that part of it. Okay. And usually when you see anything about Lair the White Worm, actually I think it's in the Kayla Janice's folk horror documentary. They throw in a little bit of that too, if my memory serves me correct. Yeah, I think it's a really cool movie. It might be going outside the spectrum you were looking at, because I think you were looking more for like traditional folk horror, maybe.
I'd just like to see what you come up with, you know?
Okay, well.
And, yeah, I don't know if I think that maybe my 5 themes were a little too different from one another, but I think that you made good use of them.
Okay.
Moving on.
Yeah, well, moving on.
If you know me at all, you would have just straight up guessed that this was going to be one. And I tried to avoid it, but I couldn't. You know, there are only so many kind of films that I like. And so my next pick was time travel.
And I knew it was coming. I didn't know where. When I pitched it, I knew it was like, he's going to send me back time travel somewhere in this fucking list.
Of course.
And my pick is, funny enough, another movie you can pick up on that Lionsgate Vestron line. It is Waxwork 2, Lost in Time, directed by Anthony Hickok. It stars Zach Galligan, who's best known as like the guy from Gremlins. For those you haven't seen it, it's basically, it picks up where Waxwork ends originally. Actually has a little recap in the beginning. Basically, Mark and Sarah survive the fire in the wax museum, but Sarah is followed by a severed hand that kills her father. Or a stepfather, I should say. Sarah becomes the prime suspect and goes to trial. So they need to go find evidence to prove her innocence, and basically they find like a whole bunch of portals and they start traveling back in time. And, basically lots of time travel. It also, that's why I picked it. Obviously, it's in the fucking title, Lost in Time. But besides the time travel aspect, basically each time period is like a parody or like a spoof or homage to a different like kind of movie. Mm-hmm. There's one for aliens, there's The Haunting, there's a montage at the end where you get a bunch of different scenes. So you get like Dawn of the Dead and things like that. You get medieval times. You get a whole bunch of different stuff. It's a pretty ambitious sequel. You also get cameos by Buck Flower, who, basically played a homeless guy in a lot of movies, a lot of John Carpenter movies. Bruce Campbell's in it. He's in the Haunting segment. David Carradine's in it too. My only knock against the sequel, because I think it's a lot of fun, is that Deborah Foreman, who was in the original, got recast because she had been dating the director at the time, and they broke up and did a little shitty thing and just, we're not dating. I'm going to recast you.
A little switcheroo. That's a bummer.
Yeah, it's a bummer because I love Deborah Foreman. Deborah Foreman's like in Valley Girl and things like that. She's great. And she's great in the original Waxwork. So that's my little nitpick on this movie. So, what do you think of this pick, Nick?
Well, it's got me thinking. It's a great pick, by the way. And you got me thinking. One that comes to mind, another franchise where the sequel ended up being a time travel film's Happy Death Day to You. Is that what the second was called? Yeah, it's to you,
Yeah.
It's Happy Death Day and then Happy Death Day to You. And I'm trying to think, are there other horror sequels that went the time travel route for the sequel, but not for the initial film?
Evil Dead.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, because you have Evil Dead, and then you have Evil Dead 2 pick up where Evil Dead picked up, but it's basically a remake of Evil Dead 2, but then opens up the time travel at the end, which leads to Army of Darkness.
Yep, right on.
Which could have been a pick too. I actually, funny enough, I did a Portal triple feature, like not really time travel, but like interdimensional stuff. It was on 420. Funny enough, when I did this, it was Army of Darkness, Waxwork, the original Waxwork, and the Beyond, because they're all involved some kind of portal stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's kind of a hard sell to go like, all right, well, we have this franchise we're doing, and then it's just the second or third film, you just go time travel, you just go hard sci-fi with it. It's a pretty tough choice, but when it works, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the original Waxwork kind of had it in there too, but you would step into the Waxwork scene and then it would kind of travel. So you could have actually done the first one too.
Right.
But I went with this one because it was more, lost in time.
Yeah, it goes for it.
There's more time travel. So that's pick number 2. And why don't we take a little break and then we'll get into the next few picks. All right. We'll be right back on the Cinematic Void Podcast.
What will terrify you most at the Haunted Mansion in Long Branch, New Jersey? The Haunted Mansion, home of more than 30 creatures of the night. Frightening, monstrous, blood-chilling creatures of every description. Which one will make you scream in terror? Find out at the Haunted Mansion in Long Branch, New Jersey.
Friday, October 30th at 8 p.m., 3D TV is back and scarier than ever. It's a 3-hour 3D haunted Halloween spooktacular. Your eyes will pop, your heart will pound when monsters, gigantic gorillas, and sexy girls in 3D bikinis bust into your living room. Special 3D glasses are on sale now at your nearby 7-Eleven store. Everybody have fun. Friday, October 30th at 8 p.m. on 39 WDZL for a 3D haunted Halloween spooktacular.
Welcome back. We are doing a kind of putting together a Halloween night marathon for you to watch if you so choose. And all the movie themes are picked by Nick. I picked the movie based on his theme, and this is the third movie in this 5-movie marathon. Nick, why don't you tell us what the theme is?
All right, man. So for my next pick, I went with twins or strange siblings, doppelgangers, however you want to say it. I don't know. There's plenty of choices out there. You could have went with Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger, twins, a great one. The part where they're trying to drive the car and he keeps hitting the brake and the gas. It's fucking amazing.
How's that a horror movie though?
Well, it's not. I mean, I don't know. Is it even? Could you say it's a genre film? No.
Maybe the one where Arnold's pregnant, that the weird unofficial sequel. What the hell was that one called?
Kindergarten Cop?
No.
What is that called?
Yeah, it's like Arnold's pregnant and like it has Danny DeVito. I think Ivan Reitman even directed to it.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. I don't feel like looking it up.
I don't know, but you got that. You got.
Oh, it's Junior, wasn't it? Junior?
Yeah, I think that is it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Could have went with either of those two. Dead Ringers instantly comes to mind. I mean, that's probably the best like fucked up twin horror film I can think of. But what'd you end up going with, Jim?
I went. I feel like if in thinking of the concept of a marathon, you always want to put a banger in there, like a crowd pleaser, a genre favorite, that kind of stuff. And I went with 1982's Basket Case from director Frank Henenlotter. And if you haven't seen it, which I guess does happen in this day and age. Like, I know technology is put almost every movie at your fingertips, but in case you haven't seen it, basically it's about a young man who's carrying a big basket that contains his extremely deformed, formerly conjoined twin brother, and they seek vengeance on the doctors who separated them against their will. And, why did I pick it? Well, plot sums it up pretty well, I think. They're twins, but different kind of twins, not identical twins. And, it's, like I said, you want to have a classic in your movie marathon. And this movie is kind of dark, but it's also funny. And that's kind of the overall theme I started picking up on was like, there's a lot of humor in all these movies. Some of it's dark humor, some, really gallows humor. Some of it's just silly humor, and some of it's just humor because it's unintentional. This one is definitely all the humors fully intended as is, and it's definitely meant to be kind of bleak and funny and dark and fucked up and all that. And I think it's a great movie, and if you've never seen Basket Case, you need to see it because it's one of the big, important kind of grindhouse like monster movies. Mm-hmm. And it's also a great New York movie kind of thing. And yeah, I went with Basket Case. And you were talking about Dead Ringers, and I actually thought about Dead Ringers, but it's like it didn't fit the tone I was going for.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you think of this pick?
Well, I'll say I think it's a great pick. I also want to mention because especially because I guess this is kind of a spoiler, not for Basket Case, but I just wanted to mention that people keep bringing up Basket Case when talking about Malignant, and I think it's just really cool that this one's kind of coming back to the public consciousness. That just the 80s had a lot of great horror films that, like the comedy that you mentioned. It's one of my favorite things about like the campy 80s. Like it's just those films were just a lot more fun back in the day, even when they were scary. It was just a good ass time.
Yeah,
the 80s.
I think even then, I mean, Basket Case is kind of a mean fucking movie. Like, Frank definitely had a sense of humor and all this stuff like Frankenhooker and Brain Damage, but like they also went really fucking dark and like pushed you to uncomfortable places. And I think, probably out of them all, this one's like the most mean-spirited, and that ending is one of the most like, I mean, you could say it's a spoiler, but it's got a fucking great downbeat, fucking misery-inducing ending.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real showstopper, literally. But yeah, so we got those, and I guess we can just go ahead and move to number 4 in this marathon. And Nick, why don't you share what your theme is?
I went with alternate history.
This is the one I had the hardest problem with because I kept thinking of things that were too close to time travel. And the first movie I actually thought about was The Butterfly Effect. I also thought about that for time travel. Yes, the movie starring Ashton Kutcher, which I don't know. I noticed things like Scream and like I Know What You Did Last Summer have been getting a lot of love again. Like Butterfly Effect, I think it's way better than all those movies, and it's more fucked up. It's more mean-spirited.
I'll say I saw it a long fucking time ago, but I definitely remember it being way better than I ever expected.
Oh, it definitely is, because like I think at the time, because you're doing like late 90s, early 2000 actors who were in like TV shows doing all these horror movies, and like I think Ashton at one point was looked at in a certain way, and now he's looked at more respectable. I think Punk kind of colored him one way for a while, and now like I think he does a lot of good positive things. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. You think he's gonna start getting some good roles soon?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's on some big TV show now.
Okay,
or something.
I have no clue.
I mean, I don't know enough, but like I knew that it was sort of like what happened to Lindsay Lohan. At a certain point, like she became this like there was a stigma attached, and I think Lindsay was like actually good in a lot of stuff, even though like the Canyons, which obviously the Paul Schrader, Bret Easton Ellis thing, like I think she's good in that.
When we got the DCP for Maniac for Beyond Fest last week, it just randomly had the Canyons on there.
Really? That's strange.
Yeah.
Huh. I mean, I also think of I Know Who Killed Me, which I love too. That she was
such a banger.
Yeah, it's a fucking great fucking movie, and like at some point we'll talk Neo Giallos, but like that and Knife plus Heart or whatever you want to say, like those are my two favorite Neo Giallos. And like anyway, we're getting off topic here. So alternate history. This one was a motherfucker. Because I know there's also movies that kind of completely rewrite history. So I went with something that starts out historically accurate, but had to pivot because it was happening in real time. And that is the 1971 movie from director Tom Hansen, The Zodiac Killer. So this was like the first movie about the Zodiac, and they were making it at the fucking time that the Zodiac Killer was active. So here's a little plot. San Francisco area is beset by a series of seemingly random murders without motive or pattern. The police are taunted by phone calls and letters. Could the maniac be the violent truck driver or the seemingly mild-mannered mailman or even a cop? What's interesting is like when you get through the first couple murders, the documented ones, up through the cab driver who gets shot, the movie's pretty faithful to what happens. I actually screened this with David Fincher's Zodiac like a few years ago. Thought it made a good double feature. But where Fincher's Zodiac has like a clear conclusion of like, it's an unsolved crime. I know recently there's been things in press that they figured out who the Zodiac is, but like I've also seen reports that call bullshit on that report. So I don't think the Zodiac's ever really been solved. It's like saying you figured out who Jack the Ripper is with.
I thought they found they found Gary last week.
Yeah, but my understanding is like there's also some debate on like how concrete that evidence is. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot.
Just ends up being some motherfucker named Gary. Give me a goddamn break.
Yeah, like Arthur Lee Allen never seemed like a real. Because like when you think of how like clever the Zodiac is, and then you see Arthur Lee Allen, it's just like this dude fucking like okey doked you guys with fucking like...
Right, he's like Kevin from The Office.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But like, I mean, I don't know. But anyway, as they're making this movie, Zodiac Killer's active. And then he disappears. He sends letters and stuff. And they only have like so much of the movie done. So this is where the alternate history comes in, is they had to start guessing what he was going to do in order to finish the movie. Now, director Tom Hansen, when I had him out, like basically said he made this movie to help try to provoke the Zodiac Killer to come out and like try to catch him. Like that was his mission. Tom Hansen was an interesting dude. I think he owned like a bunch of restaurants or pizzerias, and like he'd been robbed at gunpoint several times, and he would just like go chase after the people that robbed him with like a fucking shotgun and stuff. Like, interesting dude. Like, I know AGFA probably through Vinegar Syndrome put this out on Blu-ray, so it's definitely worth checking out, because it's definitely a kind of really weird exploitation movie, because like then it starts throwing in things like Zodiac Killer was a Satanist, and probably had to do with Anton LaVey living in San Francisco during that time too. So
right. AGFA always with the total just batshit titles.
Yeah, well, I originally saw this movie. It was Something Weird Video had put it out. They put it as a triple feature, like, and I can't remember the other two movies on there. I think they were both other like ripped from the headline serial killer exploitation movies from the 70s. If someone has that disc, I think I have that disc too, but I don't even know where it is. But like, that's how I first saw it, and like seeing the restoration, like it's amazing. But it's like, it's definitely a trashy exploitation movie. But the fact that like there's a pool murder in it, and like there's shit that didn't happen. So like, it's basically, it became alternate history, because like at a certain point when you're making this in real time, which a lot of serial killer movies aren't, it's always after the fact. Well, we gotta make shit up so we can finish the movie. And yeah, so they created its own alternate history of like what would happen with the Zodiac Killer. So that's my pick.
Cool, right on, man. You know, typically when I think of this sort of stuff, it always ends up being, you know, something like, what if Hitler won World War II, or, what if it's always like some like major turning point in history where that's the point. So I like that you picked something like this for it instead.
I thought about those kind of movies, and the reason why I went this way is just keeping with the theme and the tone of the marathon. Definitely. It's, obviously it's a 70s movie, and it gets it's kind of wacky, and there's a lot of unintentional humor in it, and it's just like, it's also one of those like, holy shit, I can't believe they put this in a movie, and holy shit, this is pretty dead on for like the Zodiac Killer, especially the couple that are out by the lake. Mm-hmm. Like that is just as grisly and like, kind of like memorable as the version they did in Fincher's Zodiac. But like, it also has some wacky shit like fucking worshipping Satan, Zodiac Killer scenes. We're going to take another break, but when we return, we're going to have our fifth pick in this Halloween night movie marathon on the Cinematic Void podcast.
What is the secret Dwayne is hiding in the basket? What's in the basket?
What's in the basket?
What's in the basket?
Open it, if you dare. Basket case.
Unbearable suspense that keeps you on the edge of an abyss of terror.
Take a cult film odyssey into Cinemadness with Cinematic Void. Based in Los Angeles, Cinematic Void is a film series that specializes in horror and exploitation films. Currently, we are hosting Cinematic Void Up All Night in the Cinemadness movie, a monthly virtual screening series, as well as the Cinematic Void podcast, where we dive deeper into the world of cult cinema. You can find Cinematic Void on the World Wide Web at cinematicvoid.com, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you like what we do, you can support Cinematic Void by joining our Patreon. Until next time, see you in the void. Welcome back. We've been putting together a 5-film Halloween night movie marathon that you can watch this Halloween, or anytime really. So it doesn't have to be Halloween, but needed a catchy title, so that's what we're going with. And it's October as we're recording this, so that's why it's called that. And we have our first 4 movies down, but we have one more to pick, and this is the closer. And I think the closer of any movie marathon is the most important movie you put in there, because you gotta end properly. You can't end on a whimper. You can't end on a slow burn. You can't end on like a movie that just doesn't work. So, Nick, why don't you tell me what the theme is for this?
I went with forbidden love, Tromeo and Juliet, that sort of thing. Trying to think of some other famous forbidden loves, maybe Elvis and Priscilla, maybe Jerry Seinfeld and what's her name?
Elaine?
From Central Park.
Oh, Central Park. Yeah.
The young girl. I don't know, forbidden love.
Whoa. Man, I didn't interpret this the same way as you did.
Lolita. Well,
I mean, yeah, I guess that is forbidden love. I was thinking you're trying to bait me into picking a necrophilia movie.
Actually, not at all. Although I didn't really have anything particularly in mind. Just I don't know. You said to pick 5.
Yeah. So that's how we get forbidden love. I kind of just went a completely different route than your intentions, or what I thought your intentions were, with this 1976 French absolute bonkers, batshit weird, like horror exploitation movie called 7 Women for Satan. So here's the plot. Boris Zaroff is a modern businessman who's haunted by his past. His father was the notorious Count Zaroff of the Most Dangerous Game fame, which is probably the most remade, reused, movie trope. It pops up every few years. It popped up pretty recently with The Hun.
We definitely mentioned Most Dangerous Game a few times over the past year or so.
Yeah, it's come up a lot because we live in the most dangerous game now. Consequently, Boris is the subject of hallucinations and all too real social lapses, which normally involve sadistic harm to beautiful, naked young women. His butler, played by Jess Franco favorite Howard Vernon, is sworn to indoctrinating him into all the evils of the family line, and their castle's torture dungeon proves quite useful in that regard. However, Boris is also enticed away from his lifestyle, or his family's lifestyle, by an apparition of a deceased countess who previously owned the castle. So, why did I go with this movie? Again, could have easily went necrophilia, could have easily went like the Lolita route, as you suggested. I don't know. Wanted to keep the spirit and the energy of this marathon, and this movie's just fucking bonkers. Like, it's just a stream of conscious, like, just absurd way of moving. It's fast-paced, like, the English dub makes it even more ridiculous. It's a lot of fun in, like, a sadistic, trashy, like, it's just a quintessential piece of Euro trash. Like, Mondo Macabro put this out many years ago on DVD, and I was like just so happy that they upgraded the Blu-ray, because the original DVD had some problems. The audio was a little trashy. The Blu-ray fixed all that. So, highest possible recommendation. I think this was on one of my like last year's like favorite Blu-ray releases things. Actually, I think we talked about it in like, I can't remember if we actually did or not. It probably was on my top of 2020. I can't remember. It's goddamn. You would think I would remember what I put on my list, but like, it's been a long 2-year stretch. Since February 2020, time has lost all concept. So it's like, whatever. But I do love this movie a lot. It's completely nutso, and I think it's the perfect way to end a marathon. As for the forbidden love angle, you can go at it from 2 ways. It's a guy that's basically, killing women because he can't love them because he's supposed to be a sadist. And then there's the ghost that he's in love with, because you can't marry a ghost.
So it's like Patrick and Demi.
Yeah, it's like that, except they don't make pottery. There's just weird, trashy, sadistic torture going on. And, another way that...
Much like making pottery.
Yeah, I guess it is. I think I made pottery once. I think I went to, like, some, like, craft fair out in Laguna or something and, like, made a piece of pottery.
Oof.
Yeah, it's not for me. I don't even know what happened to that piece of pottery. Obviously, I probably didn't keep it and just left it behind for someone else.
Left it in the kiln.
Yeah.
Still there.
Still there. Fucking just burning up and shit. I don't even know what you do with pottery. But I was going to say, this also ties into our previous movie, The Zodiac Killer, because the real-life Zodiac, if you've seen the Fincher version, was obsessed with The Most Dangerous Game. And since this is a unofficial, unauthorized sequel to the main character or the main villain of The Most Dangerous Game, kind of ties it together. Ties the room together. Ties the marathon together, as it were.
Do you think that Gary was really into The Most Dangerous Game, or was David Fincher just taking liberties there?
No, I think that was a real thing. That was one of the theories of working on, and I still don't think it's fucking Gary. It's, no, it's not a fucking dude named Gary. Do you actually think it's the fucking Gary guy?
Gary's, I don't know. How many Garys do you know?
Actually, I don't think I know any Garys in real life.
Shout out to all the Garys out there. You're fucking creepy, bro.
Is that just a Gary thing? Are they creepy? I don't know. How many Garys do you know, then?
Probably like 2.
Well, you don't know them anymore after this. So that's our 5-movie marathon that you can watch on Halloween night or any time of the year. So just the recap, just going to hit all 5 of those again for in case you forgot, because again, I can't remember anything that I put on my best of 2020 list. So there's a good chance I don't even remember what I put on this list at this point. Anyway, movie number one was a religious fable tale, which I went with The Lair of the White Worm. Number 2 was time travel. I went with Waxwork 2, Lost in Time. Number 3 was twins or doppelgangers, that kind of stuff. I went with Basket Case. Number 4 was alternate history. I went with The Zodiac Killer. And number 5 was Forbidden Love, and I went with 7 Women for Satan. So that's my 5-movie marathon based on all Nick's themes. And if you want to do, kind of mess around, you can take Nick's themes and program your own marathon based off them. And why don't you, tweet us or Instagram us or Facebook us and tell us what your picks would be if you want to do an alternate list, a alternate history list, as it were, of picks for this marathon. And if any of you actually take the time to watch all 5 of these movies, because all 5 are actually readily available on nice Blu-rays, so it's not going to be that difficult to check it out. If anyone actually watches it, tell me what you thought of it. How did your night go watching all 5 of these? Anyway, that's our 5-movie Halloween night marathon. We're going to take one last break, and we're going to come back with Read, Watch, and Listen here on the Cinematic Void Podcast.
There's a vacancy at the Bates Motel.
Norman, is that you?
No, it's Buzz McKenzie, and it could be you. Look for this display and enter Bud Light Psycho Sweepstakes to win a Bud Light party with Spud McKenzie at the Psycho Mansion. You could even get a mug like Spud's at participating retailers. Wow!
That Spud is so cool and scary.
To curl up with a good book. The sort of book that lets the imagination run away with you. If you're like me and enjoy the mysterious and the unexpected, you'll love The Enchanted World. A fascinating new series from Time Life Books about the legends, myths, and folktales of ages past. Call now. Enter The Enchanted World with wizards and witches, an intriguing account of spells and deception. Other books include ghosts, fairies, and elves, and dragons. Only remember, once you're lured into the enchanted world, there's no telling where your imagination will take you.
To order your first book, call now, 1-800-445-3232. It will be sent to you free for 10 days. Keep it and pay just $14.95 plus shipping and handling. Others will follow about one every other month. Keep the ones you want, cancel anytime.
Welcome back. It's now time for on the Cinematic Void Podcast, where we talk about all the things we've been reading, watching, and or listening to since the last time we recorded a podcast. Now, the last time we recorded a podcast was basically we recorded all the wraparounds for that Salem episode, so it's been a bit. So we might have some long lists, or I didn't write anything down and I just scrambled to make a list. We'll find out here. But Nick, what have you been reading, watching, and or listening to?
All right. Like I say, it's been a while. I'll try to not punish you with 1,000 things here. I have been reading a book called Earwig by Brian Catling, and this came across my desk because Earwig was one of the films that was shown during Beyond Fest, and one of the ones that I wasn't actually able to catch. But I did just kind of offhand see that it was from a book, so I just said fuck it and just ordered the book. So I've been digging into that. It's pretty cool, like Kafka-esque, just weirdness. Not very far into it, but enjoying it so far. So that's what I've been reading. As far as listening to goes, I've been kind of boring with what I've been listening to lately. For one, I've just been listening to the new Snail Mail song called Valentine, which is I think the full length is called Valentine as well. It comes out next month, and I'm anxiously waiting for that to come out. Snail Mail is Lindsay Jordan. I think she's from DC, and it's just like cool, chill indie rock. I don't know, just like really cool, like interesting guitar work and melodies. And I loved her first LP. It's called Lush. But just been listening to that single over and over for the past month or so. I think another song just came out today called Ben Franklin, but I only kind of skimmed it. Didn't give it a full listen. And then otherwise, I've actually just, as the weather's getting colder, I end up listening to a lot of jazz when it gets to be like fall and winter. And I've just been throwing on this fucking like gigantic Rudy Van Gelder like Blue Note playlist that I have that's just like 28 days worth of fucking jazz, you know, just throw it on shuffle and just let it rip. So that's what I've been digging into. Just kind of have that going on in the background, you know. Film wise, I haven't really been watching a lot of stuff, but like the last week or so, I've kind of like dug in and tried to catch back up. I recently probably the best thing I've seen recently was I just watched Wake and Fright.
Shout out to Ted Kotcheff, who also directed Weekend at Bernie's and First Blood.
Fuck yeah. And, you know, if you know me at all, you know I fucking hate kangaroos. That's actually not true. I don't hate kangaroos. But if you hate kangaroos, this is the film for you. But there's also there's a whole lot more to it than just kangaroo murder. Great Australian film from the early 70s.
We should say that, like, in this movie, they filmed a real life kangaroo hunt, and
right.
If you're on that side of things where you don't want to watch Cannibal Holocaust, not recommended.
But if you're a sick fuck like me and you want to see a bunch of kangaroos get fucking murdered, dig in. This was filmed for, you know, the kangaroo stuff was filmed for this. However, they didn't just go out and kill a bunch of kangaroos. I think they to curb like overpopulation, they have people that are paid to go out and kill kangaroos to a certain extent. So, you know, the director jumped on board and they went and did this and he filmed it, and it makes it look like the people in the film are killing the kangaroos. They're not. But it's quite a striking and a really long scene.
Funny, well, not really funny, but Ted Kotcheff, I think, was like vegetarian when he made this, and like basically he was offered. They're like, we're gonna go do this no matter what, and this is where you get in the conflict of your art and all that.
Yeah,
I mean, I think the movie's phenomenal. I'm gonna say that, but like, yeah, it goes on forever. It also has a unhinged Donald Pleasance as well.
Oh yeah, he's great in it, absolutely, as he usually is. But man, he's particularly unhinged.
I'm going to say again, pre-1978 Halloween Donald Pleasance is some of the most, like, just wild, like, character actor, like, roles. Like, he's just fucking just out of control in, like, the best way possible. And, I mean, one thing you can take away from Wake and Fright is just that his performance is, like, next level.
Oh, yeah. I just saw Seance, which is the Simon Barrett film. He wrote or co-wrote The Guest, You're Next, and maybe a few others. So this is this is directorial debut. It's cool. It's a fun one. I recommend it, you know.
I've been wanting to check it out. I might have to re-up my Shudder.
Just saw Titan or however the fuck you want to say it. You know, I didn't love it, but I want to see it again, and I think that says something for it. It's stuck with me either way. So yeah, I need to re-experience it and see if I changed my tune. Just saw VHS 94, also some Simon Barrett in there. Pretty cool. Maybe my favorite of the VHS stuff. And then I just saw Old. And I thought that was pretty cool as well. None of these like really kicked my ass except for Wake and Fright, but you know, sometimes you just got to watch a bunch of shit to catch up. And that's what I did. Oh, I also just saw Candyman, the new one. And again, fun as well. But Wake and Fright's my recommendation this time around if you're not squeamish. That's it for me. How about you, Jim?
You know, I forgot to mention earlier when we talked about Beyond Fest, I did some screenings, so I showed, you know, Kayla Janice's absolutely phenomenal folk horror documentary, Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched, and coincidentally enough, we dropped the podcast episode we did with her right after it, and, you know, seeing that with the audience, people just really got into it. And we also showed Allison's birthday with it, and I think not many people stayed because, like, that documentary is a lot to digest, but, like, it's going to be part of that Severin box set, so, like, if you didn't stay for it, you got a chance to go see a nicely restored Allison's birthday at some point. But, like, that documentary played well, and I think people were just, like, trying to figure out how to write a movie list in the dark of that theater. Because you get it, like, it's just, like, it's recommendation after recommendation, and a lot of it's stuff that people just haven't seen or isn't on the radar, which is another reason why that Severin box set that's coming out with it is going to be pretty essential, because there's a lot of stuff I haven't seen, so I'm kind of stoked for that. Also screened the new 4K restoration of Dr. Caligari, which is a movie that I hadn't thought about since, like, the VHS days, and, like, seeing that in a theater fully restored, it was one of the best restorations I've ever seen. And had the director, you know, writer, who's Jerry Stahl, who obviously, you know, wrote Permanent Midnight, had the DP and one of the actors there, and it was like a really cool Q&A. It was kind of funny because, like, Beyond Fist did a couple trigger warnings on movies this year, and this was one of them, only because, like, you know, the guy who made this movie also made Cafe Flesh, which was an art house kind of comedy porn thing, and I knew it would be probably more sexually explicit than, not pornographic obviously, but, like, not on the same level as, like, you know, a lot of people have been used to. So there was a couple walkouts during the screening.
Oh, sweet. Hell yeah.
It was mostly couples, so I think they went into it, like, not sure what they were getting into, and then funny enough, they all bounced during, like, nothing really just offensive or too weird, whatever. I think it was just people kind of realized, not my thing. Mm-hmm. And then also screened Tombs of the Blind Dead, that new restoration. That looked incredible.
Hell yeah.
I even dressed up like a fucking asshole as a Templar Knight. But, you know, just should have mentioned that earlier, but just shoehorn it in here on the Read, Watch, Listen part. Speaking of which, this is my Read, Watch, Listen. Read, I ain't read shit again. And, like, I've been really bad. And I've been, like, looking at my bookshelf because I got a bunch of, like, pulp novels that I bought, like, last year during the height of the pandemic, and it's like, I want to read more, and just haven't really read more, but one of these days, damn it. Watch, I put on some movies at night on Amazon, just things, comfort movies, things I've seen a million times as I go to sleep. Not really worth mentioning because it's just, you know, well, I'll mention it, it's like Fog, Dead and Buried, things like that. But main things I've been watching is The Great British Bake Off is back. So that's an essential watch. Bob's Burgers is also back. They just did their Halloween episode. So probably the only animated series I still watch. I haven't caught an episode of The Simpsons in, like, probably 10 years now.
Simpsons is still on?
Simpsons are still on. Also been watching What We Do in Shadows, which is, I don't know if you've been checking out that show, but it's fucking phenomenal.
Right on. Matt
Berry in anything.
Yeah, he's great.
Shit. It's fucking great. And also been checking out the homie Derek Millen, who does Detours, and he's, you know, it's spooky season, so he's been hitting up Salem, like, every weekend. He's been doing a lot of new Salem videos. He's also been figuring out ways to do them different. Like, he's gotten access to a like, kind of a museum / like, you know, theatrical kind of event place that doesn't allow you to film. They allow him to go in and film it, so it's like, he's getting access to stuff, so he's getting unique Salem stuff. Obviously, you'll see the same stuff, too, in there. But his last few videos have been really cool. He did the Haunted Happenings Parade, which is something I've always wanted to go check out. So it was a little different this year. It was an actual parade. You had to walk past all the, what would be the floats or whatever. But cool stuff. Shout out to Derek. If you haven't yet, check out those detours on YouTube. And as for listen, kind of got, I don't know, for some reason I threw on Songs Ohio, I guess it's Ohio because there's A at the end. The Lioness, which is kind of like in between lo-fi, mid-fi, like folk rock stuff. I don't know why I threw that on. Just like it popped in my head and it's like, shit, I feel like listening to it. I also listened to the first Cross My Heart record, the self-titled. I know those records just recently got reissued along with Liars Academy, so big ups to some Baltimore, what would you call it, emo, indie rock?
Yeah, for sure. There was the Ryan was on that Washed Up Emo podcast last week, and so they talked kind of at length about that, and they never even really call it indie rock. Like they just unabashedly they're like, fuck it, you know. It was a place and time, but it was emo, and some of it still holds up.
Well, we should kind of explain the emo. This is more of like coming out of the Discord, like late 80s, 90s stuff, like which birthed like Fugazi and stuff like that. Actually, a little before Fugazi. It was Embrace. That was Ian McCaw's other...
Rites of Spring, Embrace, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's where emo started. Now when you say the word emo, people think of people with fucking stupid haircuts and like skinny jeans and heading towards crabcore and that kind of stuff. I don't even know what people consider emo. Like when I think emo, I think of that stuff, and then I think like tail end of like some of the indie rock stuff that got labeled like Cross My Heart or like the Get Up Kids and things like that.
Right. It's just a more emotive version of 90s indie rock.
Or, you know, because it came out of being emotional hardcore or emotive hardcore or whatever, and now I don't even know what the fuck is considered emo. People just kind of throw it around as a term or like a fashion thing.
Right.
Sort of like how the word scene became this like fashion thing. Fucking kids today.
So it's all cringe all the way down.
It's cringe. Fuck them kids. Anyway, as Freddie Gibbs said on that Boldy James song.
He's right.
Yeah. Which I hadn't listened to lately, but that record's still a banger. But what I've been listening to besides the Songs Ohio and Cross My Heart, I've been listening to that Snail Mail as well. I listened to that Ben Franklin song. It's a banger.
Cool.
I think the whole record's going to be solid once it drops.
Hell yeah.
Baltimore area death metal band Genocide Pack has an album coming out. They only got one track up that you can listen on Apple Music. It's called Perverse Dominion. And it's kind of a, more doomy death metal style. That's what they do anyway. Also been listening to that new single from Conway the Machine that's coming off his Shady Records debut, Piano Love, produced by The Alchemist. That fucking beat is just like, it's fucking great. That like weird like off-key piano loop or whatever.
So sick.
Sounds like sounds like it could be like a fucking like soundtrack to a horror movie thing, that beat. So,
but also it could have been on like Wu-Tang Forever.
Could have been on Wu-Tang Forever. Kind of reminds me, because I think Alchemist did some beats for Swollen Members like early on, like because Al started doing like cut his teeth doing a lot of indie like hip hop stuff because he did like Dilated Peoples and things like that. And I think he did some tracks on that first Swollen Members record that are kind of similar. Not saying he's rehashing, but just like kind of eerie, like horror, maybe Gravediggers kind of level of stuff. It's a really good track. I'm excited for that Conway record. But that wraps up this episode of the Cinematic Void podcast. We'll be back in November with a new episode that's going to be taking a little trip to the mall. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. That's all we're going to tease. Coming up for Cinematic Void, we have a show on November 6th with our friends at Severn Films. It is the Severn Films Super Shock Pop-Up Film Festival. It's the second edition of this. It's going to be at the Cine Lounge Outdoor in Hollywood, which is, incidentally enough, the parking lot right next to where the Egyptian Theater is. It's going to be 3 mystery films that Severn's going to be putting out on Blu-ray for their Black Friday sale that's going to be dropping in November, obviously, because that's when you do Black Friday. And I will say one of the titles is like, I'm so happy that this is coming out on Blu-ray. I wish I could just shout it out, but like this one, they're all 3 I'm really excited for, but one of them is just like, holy shit, mind-blowing. So tickets are on sale for that. If you go search Eventbrite and put in Severn Films, you can find tickets for that. They have like, you know, general admission. They also have some VIP tickets. I think both get like free swag, but like the VIP get like preferential seating and like some extra goodies. So I don't have a date for my Los Feliz 3 show yet, but I'll give you a little clue of when I'll be showing. It's going to be kind of be a cure for your Halloween hangover. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Until next time, see you in the void.